So this will be the second one of the One Piece couples videos. This one is mostly going to be about some of the different couples that we've seen in Paradise, or the first part of Paradise in the New World, or in the Grand Line. Some of the other couples down the line will be like a specific video focused like specifically on like Scarlet and Kyros, and then like another one on like Senor Pink and Rushin, and like, you know, like Baby Five and Sai down the line. But for now, it's just a couple of like miscellaneous couples that we have. So going through this, I am kind of doing these a little bit in order. I mean, like these blue couples weren't technically in order beyond the fact of like they live in the East Blue, and this is kind of the order we're introduced to them in. This is a little bit more following the order of what we see in the first part of Paradise. So the first couple, even though they're not a couple at the time, the first couple that we kind of deal with is, of course, Mr. Nine and Miss Monday from Baroque Works, and they are on Whiskey Peak. For those of you who are, familiar with, Baroque Works, or not as familiar with Baroque Works, which, first of all, on Baroque Works itself, because this is kind of the first time I've had any major mention of Baroque Works in anything here, as far as I can remember, for some reason, whenever I was reading the manga for the first time, and I was reading that it was like Baroque, for some reason I always read it as Barbecue Works, and I don't know why. It was like Barbecue Works. I'm like, well, I guess they're in a desert, so I guess it would be hot. So I don't know why I read it as Barbecue Works, but later on it's like, oh, it's Baroque Works, isn't like Baroque, like architecture and everything. Okay, I guess that makes sense. I don't know. Crocodile might have just really liked barbecue, might have been my answer to that one, so I don't know. But I kept wanting to call it Barbecue Works, but that's also like my dyslexia going, oh, look, there's a B and a Q, so it's barbecue. I'm like, no, it's not. But we see Mr. Nine and Miss Monday in regards to Baroque Works. So let's out Mr. Nine had been paired with Vivi, or Miss Wednesday, when we first introduced them during the Reverse Mountain arc, where they deal with the Laboon, and where they meet Crocus and everything. And, Vivi and Mr. Nine seem to get along just fine and everything. They have like the royalty theme and everything, and like, the hey baby, yeah baby, like all that stuff that they do back and forth is just funny. And then when they get to Whiskey Peak, we are introduced to Mr. 8, who is of course later revealed to be Igaram, Vivi's partner. Vivi's, he's the head of the Alabasta Royal Guard, or so later on when we find that out. But he is paired with Miss Monday, who is doing under the guise of being a extremely built nun. Extremely built nun. And they're, of course, part of, Baroque Works, and they're, trying to, get pirates to get bounties to pay for stuff. And during the time when they're in Whiskey Peak, when the Straw Hats are in Whiskey Peak, it's revealed because, Mr. Five and Miss Valentine show up, and they reveal that, oh, Vivi is she's not actually this member of Baroque Works, she's actually the Princess of Alabasta. And Mr. Nine and Miss Monday, like, they're like, oh, so I guess, like, Vivi and Igaram, or so, Miss Wednesday and, Mr. 8 have been lying to us this entire time. But they're like, okay, I really don't care. They were our friends throughout this whole time frame that they were part of Baroque Works for the past, 2 years or so that, they were part of Baroque Works. So we are going to defend Vivi and defend Igaram after this is revealed. And, and I just look at that as, going, okay, we get an instance here where it's just, bad guys that kind of become good. And it's not because, the Straw Hats went, you should become good because it's better, or you should become our ally because we'll beat you up anyway. It's no, our friends, these two that we've been working with for the past, 2-ish years or whatever here, that are our friends, are in trouble. And we are going to side with them over Baroque Works. And, Mr. Nine and Miss Monday, they stay behind on Whiskey Peak, and they kind of help work as, a distraction to protect, to help, Vivi and the Straw Hats and Igaram be able to escape. Igaram goes off, and he's, supposedly gets blown up or so, and then, Vivi and the Straw Hats head off. And, of course, we find out that Igaram's fine later on. But we do this cutback after the 2-year time skip, and we learn that Mr. Nine and Miss Monday have since We don't know if they've gotten married, but they had a child together, so they are a couple. They have a baby. We do not know the baby's name. I don't even know if we know the baby's gender. But the baby does have like this little tiny crown, like Mr. Nine does, and we still have. I don't think we've ever found out Mr. Nine and Miss Monday's actual names. Um, but I like them, and I wouldn't mind like actually learning what their actual names are at some point. Um, and of course, we see this during like the decks of the world, one of the decks of the world ones for like the cover page stories. We see them there. And then they do have a cameo in Stampede. The two of them and the baby have a cameo in Stampede. They're just a little tiny off to the side thing. I'm just, it's just like, we need another reference to Whiskey Peak. Just put them in the background. That's fine. They're like the only other people from Whiskey Peak that we even remember these days anyway. So put them there. And like, so that's fine. I like Mr. Nine and Miss Monday. I like the fact that Miss Monday is just like this, has this disguise as like a nun that likes to drink, and her and Nami have this drinking contest. And Nami of course pretends to lose, but then they Miss Monday goes off, and like then she's like rips off her nun's habit and everything. It's just like just built so freaking strong. I love that. I would really like them to show up in the manga again at some point, or in the story again at some point, not just as like a little check-in. I mean, the check-in was nice to see them, because it shows us like, okay, they're going on, and they're going to be later on, and they're at least they're possibly still like could be like help to Vivi down the line, but they seem to have at least gotten a little bit stronger. I highly doubt that they know hockey or anything like that, but like Miss Monday seems to have like buffed up a little bit more, and Mr. Nine still has like his baseball bats that he uses, so they could show back up again. I like the idea in like a story that like Vivi, like, as like an alternate thing that Vivi could have done is like she could have like gone back, like her and Igaram could have gone back to Whiskey Peak and like hired Miss Nine or Mr. Monday, Miss Nine and Mr. Monday. Yeah, no, hire Mr. Monday and I did it again. Hire Mr. Nine and Miss Monday as like to come to Alabasta, and like Miss Monday like becomes Vivi's like secretary that like if you don't have an appointment, she will like squeeze the living hell out of you because you are not supposed to be here type thing or whatever. And like Vivi would just like coo and ooh and ah over the little baby. I just like that idea. Like they get stronger or something. I don't know. But we really don't see any of them. We don't see them again for a while. I would like it if we did. Speaking of Vivi, we don't actually have a couple with Vivi in it, although I do like Vivi and Koza. But we have Vivi's parents, Nefertari Cobra and Nefertari Titi. Her parents are, well, her father is, as far as, well, current whereabouts of Cobra are kind of unknown at the moment. He could be dead. He could be held captive by the Gorosei and Im-sama, or he could be back in Alabasta with Vivi. We don't know. Or Vivi could be captured as well. We don't know. That has not been revealed in regards to what's going on at the Reverie. We'll find out later. Cobra and Titi. We've seen a picture of Titi. We see a picture of her at one point, and she looks in like a Vivi's memory. And she looks a little bit like Vivi, and then we do get a flashback of her at one point. I don't remember if it's like during like the chapter 0 or something, but it's like we do get a flashback of her where we cut back to like when it's like announced that Goldie Roger has been the King of the Pirates has been executed, and she her and Cobra are like reading the paper, and we see her, and she looks a lot like Vivi. And at some point, Titi did die when Vivi was very young. Vivi has some memories of her mother, but I don't remember if we get an exact age of how old Vivi was when Titi died. But one of the other things is, I mean, like in regards to royalty, and you always hear like in our world about like arranged marriages in the past. It's like, oh, the king would pick whoever he would wish to marry, or the prince would pick. Or it was like, oh, what company could, what country could make our, our alliance stronger, and everything like that. And in regards to that, I don't necessarily see Alabasta as that type of country. I do want to do a video or a video series where I talk about some of the different royalty that we've seen throughout One Piece. Like comparing like the way that like Stelly rules as it compares to how like Vivi and like her family rules, and like the way that other royal families throughout One Piece that we've seen. But that'll be a different video series. But Alabasta does not strike me as the country, or at the very least, the Nefeltari family does not strike me as the kind of family that would only marry other royalty. I mean, they abandoned the chance to become celestial dragons, 800 whatever years ago. And they since have, continued to, rule over their country. Yes, they live in this immaculate palace and everything, but it's also, they also do very much care about their citizens. And Cobra does not strike me as the type of king that would just, oh, well, I have to marry someone and I would like them to be pretty and royal. So just find me some other pretty royal and I'll marry them. I assume that there was like maybe Cobra like courted Titi. Like maybe she was like one of his candidates for a wife, but like maybe from like a noble Alabasta family or so. But he, it's like maybe they had been friends when they were kids, and he, it's like not like the whole, love at first sight or I've been in love with you since we were children type of love, but like they, been friends when they were kids, and out of all of the candidates, she was the one that he liked the best for a wife. And he did like court her and romance her and like earned her love and earned her affection, and they did fall in love. It may not have been like this, everlasting, will never die love that like Scarlet and, Kiddos have later on down the line, but he did love her. I would assume that Cobra did love Titi. That he does not seem like the type that would just marry a woman just to continue his bloodline from everything that we've seen with him. And, so that's what we have there. The other kind of, hybrid couple is Igaram, the captain of the Alabasta Royal Guard, aka Mr. 8, and Terra Cotta, who is his wife, who is the royal head chef at the Alabasta Palace. We have seen a fair amount of Igaram, and in Whiskey Peak, he's the mayor, and he's paired with Miss Monday as part of his, the team that they're a part of in regards to that and everything. And him, he sacrifices himself for Vivi to allow her time to escape with the Straw Hats and everything. And he begs the Straw Hats to protect her and take her back to Alabasta. And, so we see all of that. And, he shows back up in Alabasta. Somehow he, survived getting blown up, and he, made his way back to Alabasta. And he's there, and he helped, he's there at the end of the Alabasta arc and during the post-Alabasta arc. And we meet him, we see him again, and we see his wife. And we're introduced to Terra Cotta, who just, she's like, oh, like when she sees how much Luffy can eat, she's like, oh, he can eat a lot. Keep the food coming. I like this boy. And like they just make food and more food and more food, and she seems to just like to do that. But she's the chef, so she likes to cook. Her and Sanji, like I don't know if they ever show Sanji like going to the Alabasta kitchens and like do any like cooking with her. So, but that would have been like a fun thing to see. Because Sanji doesn't cook with women that often, mostly just because of the fact of like, as we learn, like in on the Baratier, Zeph didn't want any female chefs because then he couldn't hit them the way that he hit Sanji and the other chefs. I mean, like we've seen him, he cooked with pudding and chiffon, and we're with that. And he does like there's like in like the filler arcs, there's like the cooking contest in like Log Town with him and Carmen, and then there's like what is it, the G8 arc where he has to like cook, like pretend to be a chef in the kitchen at this marine base or so. But mostly Sanji cooking is on his own, so it's nice when we get to see him cook with someone else. But Terra Cotta also seems to be not exactly like Vivi's like lady in waiting, but she also seems to be kind of this like surrogate mother figure to Vivi, because Igaram and Cobra seem to be quite close. Same thing with like Cobra and Pell and Chaka, like the four of them seem to be quite close. And Terra Cotta seems to act, as I said, like this surrogate mother to Vivi, helping her get dressed when it's time for Vivi to go and do her speech and everything. And, like shoving, Igaram out of the room when he tries to come into the room and Vivi's getting dressed and everything. She's very strict with her husband. And they look very similar, which is weird, and Zoro points it out. And it's just like, I really hope these two are not related beyond just marriage, but you know, it's a running gag. Sometimes in anime or manga, they'll have like, oh, the husband and the wife look alike, even though they shouldn't look alike. I mean, like I could understand like having the same hairstyle because they both have like the very curly hair and everything, but she should not have the same facial structure, or similar facial structure as her husband. But that's neither here nor there. But you know, she very much cares for Vivi and everything, and her and her husband seem to have a fairly good relationship with each other. And I'm assuming that that relationship is definitely like, oh, they got married because they were in love type of a thing. We do get to see her and Igaram at the during the cover page story of like oh, who's the idiot that falls out of Skypiea? Gedetsu. Gedetsu. I think that's Gedetsu. I think so. The idiot that doesn't know what he's supposed to breathe. That's one of, you know, Enel's or Eneru's, you know, warriors or whatever that falls out of their Geratsu, whatever. You know, we see Vivi and Igaram and Terracotta, and I think Cobra is there as well, along with a few other people. They go to the hot springs after the hot springs get up and going. So, you know, so we have that relationship there. And then the next relationship that we have that is also still in Alabasta. All four of these relationships can be connected to Alabasta in one way or the other. But this other one is Toto and Osawa. Toto is Koza's father. We see him, of course, a few times throughout the Alabasta arc. He's at Yuba trying to dig up the water and everything. And we get flashbacks where we see him and Koza from when Vivi was a kid and everything. And then we do get a flashback where we see Koza's mother, who is Aswa. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's Aswa. And we don't really see anything else of her. We don't know if she's still alive. We don't know if she died at some point. You know, we don't know. It's not like a major thing. It's just, I don't know if that was just something that they threw in the flashback or not, like if that was like a filler flashback or whatever. But we see the mom, and again, this is a marriage where they were probably definitely in love when they got married, because Koza and Toto have no claim to like any titles in Alabasta. Even though I do like Koza and Vivi, and I would not mind if they got married, and I don't think Cobra would care if they got married. Although it would have been nice to get to see like Koza at like the Reverie as like one of like Vivi's guards. That would have been nice. But he is off running a hot spring with his dad and his uncle and a random guy that fell out of the sky that does not understand the concept of chew your food. And then the last two couples that we have are Skypiea or Shandorian related couples. The first one is Calgara and Herb. I went over Calgara and Herb when I was going over the mothers and the fathers, of course, for those videos. Calgara, of course, is this great warrior from like ancient Shandoria. Was friends with Nolan and everything, and his wife was herb, like a herb, like a vegetable herb type of a thing. And they had a daughter whose name was Moose, like the dessert moose. And Moose married a boy named Set or Seto, depending on which way you want to go with. And so those two couples. So Calgara, of course, was supposed to sacrifice his daughter. Of course, I went over this in the Father's Day video and in the Mother's Day video. And of course, Herb did, of course, not want this to happen. And, she doesn't want to see her baby die. And of course, thankfully Nolan shows up and saves her and everything. And Herb and Calgara, definitely probably a marriage based on love. And same thing with like Moose and Seto, depending on which one you want to go with. We do know that like Moose and Set are married by the time the knock-up stream happens, because they're at least married by then. I don't remember if they state whether, like how long it's been since then, but we do know that their line eventually led to Wiper. Of course, in the Shandians that were, of course, living in Skypiea. And of course, now that line, the line that's Wiper, has now resulted in Wiper is now one of the, God's, guards, God's disciples. It's, he's working for Gonfall. So like that kind of has come full circle a little bit with that line. In regards to that, and like he was able to help ring the bell that lets, Cricket, Nolan's descendant, know that Skypiea was real, that it wasn't a lie, and then it's up in the sky. We don't really have anything. I mean, like, I guess like the two that people like to put with Wiper are like either Connis or Loki, one of the two. I'd be fine with either one. Loki, because like she's just so awesome badass warrior, along with Wiper, and Connis, because it would be like, okay, like a Shandorian marrying a Skypiean. But that's, again, neither here nor there. That's not like anything canon or anything like that. But Calgra and Herb, even once they got into Skypiea after the knockup stream happened and everything, them and Moose and Saito, of course, them and all the rest of the Shandians were, of course, chased off of their land and everything by the Skypieans at the time and everything, and their land was taken from them and turned into Upper Yard, I think. And then, of course, they just basically become like this guerrilla warfare type unit that then consistently keeps causing more and more problems over the next 400 years for the Skypieans. And now, of course, because of the Straw Hats, that has been stopped, and now they're all just like, okay, everybody's gonna freaking get along and stop arguing. Just stop. The crazy lightning idiot is gone. Lightning psychopath egomaniac is gone. You two groups can learn to freaking work together now. Thank you very much. We're gonna go now as we drop out of the sky after we take your gold and have an octopus drop us from the sky. Or a squid or whatever that thing was, drop us out of the sky. I just love how the end of Skypiea is basically Star Hat's like, everybody grab gold, and they grab the gold, and then they think that the Shandorians and the Skypians are going to attack them, and then it's all like, oh no, they know we took the gold, we have to get out of here, and then they leave, and they're just like, no, we had more gold we wanted to give you. And then they just leave. Again, I wouldn't mind some check-ins with the Shandorians and the Skypians a little bit more than we've got. Not that I don't like the cute little check-ins we've gotten on like the cover pages thus far, because those are nice too. Again, it would be nice to see the cover pages animated, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So I think that's about it for what I had for these couples. Obviously, in the past, Connis would have had a mother, and her and Paglia would have been married. But I don't know if we ever get a confirmation as to what happened to Connis's mother, if she died, or if like they got divorced, or whatever the case may be. But we really don't know anything else about that. In regards to other connections to that, it obviously at some point in the past, Nolan had been married, and like they had a child, and of course Nolan's descendants thus far in the next 400 years were like ridiculed and everything, and of course that led to Mont Blanc Cricket, of course, leaving their kingdom and going off, and he moved to Jaya, and that's where he's trying to find any other information about his ancestor and whether or not that was true, him and the two weird looking orangutan brothers. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that, but eventually it is, there's not as many couples in One Piece as, some are led to believe. And I mentioned this in the last video, it's romanced on, but it's romance with like adventure for the most part. And therefore most of the couples that we see aren't necessarily major in like the story sense. There's a few that are, that give us a very poignant emotional moments. Those will be a little bit later on down the line. And the next group for the couples, I have like love of horror is like what I have. So it's like Lola / Absalon from like Thriller Bark, and like Hogback and Sindri. Simply just because of like those kind of deserve something of their own. But I'll probably throw in something else in there as well. In regards to like any of the other couples that I can think of that are in that time frame or like that area. So that's what I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. I may not exactly understand what's going on, but you're still the same comrade in arms that I've partnered with for a long time. I'll hold them off for you, so hurry and run away, Miss Wednesday.